You're out of touch, you're out of touch. Da 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 da. When you're not around, you're out of touch. Sorry, I had to make that joke. It was so obvious to make. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the Torchwood episode Out of Time, written by Catherine Tigana and is directed by Alice Troughton, who had previously directed, I believe it was Small Worlds. Now, this story is a very unique aspect in not just Torchwood, but really much most of Doctor Who fiction, for that it does not have a villain. In nowhere is there any monster or anybody even presented as much as a villain. It's just really like an awkward situation, and our characters just got to try and deal with it. And it's such a unique premise. You know, it's just a simple premise. We'll get onto that when we talk about the story. But there's no villain. There's not much of a plot. It's just we get used to these characters, and then we see what happens to them. And that's a very interesting aspect. It's more like a soap drama than it is a Doctor Who fiction. And this is also, from a directing standpoint, probably the most toned down out of the tortury cheesiness. In fact, I counted, out of all of those really awkward edits, when the camera speeds up really quick and they have that sound effect, in this story, it happens once. So that's really cool. If we can sort of really get to allow the directing to tell its story and not on some really cliched detective stylized thing, if that makes any sense. Now, this story is hugely popular. Some people may consider it their favourite story of Series 1. Some might even consider it their favourite story from Series 1 and 2. And some even consider it one of their favourite stories in Torchwood of all time. And it is, I don't know how I'm going to do this. This video is probably going to be short because, there isn't really much to talk about in terms of where the story is going, with the narrative of it, but it does have a lot to say. So I don't know, I'm just rambling about it. So this is the official cover of the Series 1 box set. This is the box set, which is given to me by my friend Gwen. So Gwen, if you're watching, thank you very much. Highly appreciate it. This story was the first on its disc, which means I printed out my own DVD cover. Hey, how cool is that? This one, I couldn't find a decent one that I liked, so I actually put this together all by myself. So you've got Owen there, because he's one of the proper main characters in this story. Really, in this story, it's an Owen, Gwen, and Jack story. Yanto's in it, but he is sidelined. I don't even think Tashika appears in one scene, and that's it. I can't remember. I don't even think. Yeah, Tashiko is a complete absent in this story. But yeah, and you got the plane, but then you got the girl and you got the man, but there. I'll explain in a minute who they are. Here's the spine, and usually I don't like it when the image bleeds over, but that just looks gorgeous. That generally just looks gorgeous. And here's the back. And I've also said also includes the episode Combat, which we'll talk about after we talk about the Doctor Who episode next. So that's really cool. So there you go. That's the my DVD cover of that. So on to the story. The narrative goes right straight into what the story wants to talk about. Jack, Gwen, and Owen are on a airplane. What do you call it? Airplane. Oh, what's it called? Like a landing duct for planes. And this old-fashioned plane comes down, and three people introduce themselves, and Jack asks them what day it is. It's like it's the same day as now, like December, blah blah blah. What year? I need to know the year. I think they said 1955. I think it's 1955. One sec. It just says 1950s on the back of my CD, so just call it the 1950s. And then the intro cuts in, and that's the plot. That's the main plot. And that's really the only plot that delves into these character traits. And yeah, it's like there's no villain, there's no monsters. It's just the Torchwood team have to look after these group of people who have been stranded here because they fell through the time rift. They disappeared in the 1950s and have returned in the 2000s. And it's basically about them dealing with what's happening. Now, this is a story where you could tell it in Doctor Who, like the characters, their emotional impacts of, like, they're never going to see their families again, this horrific event. It's something that you could technically do in terms of, like, an audience maturity. You could tell that, but you couldn't really, because the Doctor's a time traveller. You could send him, he could then take them back in time and fix everything. But, actually, tell you what, in the next Doctor Who episode that we're going to be talking about, it's basically the same thing, only in reverse. Instead of people being trapped in the future, they've been trapped in the past. A little teaser for the next episode of the marathon there. And they're trapped basically in the future, and we don't know how they're going to deal with it. And because there's no monster, because there's no creature, the story heavily relies on its characters. This story kind of feels like a story which was originally meant to be two-parters, but then they condensed it to a one-part, and everything that left was a needless plot to get the villain forward, so we're only left with the character heartbreaking moments. And yeah, it works really well. This story relies on us connecting with our characters. And what the story does very smartly is that it connects one of the characters with a character we're already familiar with. The man, I can't remember his name. He connects with Jack, as Jack kind of idolizes him in a way. They go into bars. He helps him, tries to communicate with the world, and kind of looks up to him because, Jack is also out of time. He says at one point he's born in their future. He lived through their past. He's been a soldier. He's been this kind of old-fashioned archetype, and he kind of sees himself in this character, kind of like a surrogate father, if you will. And there's just great moments where there's just the connectionness of these characters makes you really feel for them. Jack basically he's right, there's no monsters anymore. It would be easy if there was monsters, if it was aliens, but these are just humans who just got trapped outside of the void, and now they have become our responsibility. We've got to look after them. And so he signs them to the people. Jack takes this guy to a bar. He takes him Yanto takes them shopping at one point, which is a really fun scene. That's more for the girls, but there's a great scene in which he's looking at some dirty magazines, and he's just completely shocked by it, and it's the kids will see. Wouldn't the kids see this? And then Yanto points out that the woman in the laundry, she's actually a children's presenter. And the guy's like, oh my God, what madness are we living in? But yeah, it's the story's split on three, and they never really interconnect. It's like we get the starting point of these three characters being introduced to us, and then the story spreads out in three waves. So, we'll talk about Jack, and then we'll talk about the other two later. I'll save Owen for last, because I think his character one is the most important in terms of Torchwood going forward. We get scenes of Jack basically telling these people that they're going to have to basically get up new identifications, pretend that they've been living here all this time, because it's only Torchwood that knows about this time traveling thing, and it's a bit awkward. And he tries to give them new identities, but this guy like freaks out. It's like, you can't take our names off us. Like, they're the only things that we have from our time. Without their names, we are nothing. And Jack actually like gets down and apologizes. He's not like, right, we need to focus on this. Jack goes up to the guy and is like, right, you are right. I'm sorry, I didn't think. You can keep your names. And so he does keep his name. And now this person, he's somebody who has built his entire life on business, and he has basically had these plans for his family, for his kids. He lives off his family. Like, the love and his appreciation for his family is what keeps him going. And now he's in a situation where that has basically ripped apart from him. His wife's been dead for many years. They're still tracking down his son at this point. He tracks down his old house, his old business, but the building is sort of fallen apart. Nobody lives there anymore. He asks someone about it, and do they know anybody who used to live there by blah 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 name? To which it's like, oh no, I don't. And this kind of puts him in a horrible state. It's like, this is like a horrible dream. Jack takes this character then out for a drink, and it's here where he kind of talks about himself for a bit, and it's about his business. And then he tasks Jack about his personal life, and Jack goes silent about it. And this character is like, he presumes anyway that like them, he is somebody who's taken out of his own time and put in this place. He is someone from the past, which I guess technically is true, because Jack has been in the past. We first introduced to him in World War II. We don't know how long he was there, and we've also had like images of him in the past in Small Worlds, and so that is like thing. And this story grips on you. It makes you really feel for these characters, basically Toshika, she finds out that his son is still alive, but now an elderly man who lives in an old home, and so he goes to visit his son. But it turns out his son has Alzheimer's, and he struggles to remember things. And that scene in which he's meeting up with his son, he's showing photos of him and his son, pretending to be a family relative, like his nephew or something. And there's a scene then in which the son like turns to him and smiles and remembers a sports game when he was a kid. And then, because of his Alzheimer's, he breaks down again. And that is such a powerful scene, because like Alzheimer's is a real life horrible event. This isn't some alien monster the Torchwood team can take down and beat up and shoot. This is a real life illness that can, at the moment, does not have a cure. It does not have anything to rely on. And this person who has never even heard of Alzheimer's really before, he doesn't really understand what's going on, and he's doing his best to try and reconnect with his son, to try and get him back into his personal life, but it's just not working. The son forgets him, and it tortures him. So in the finale of this segment of the storyline, he steals Yanto's car and tries to take his own life. Jack tracks him down, rescues him, and then we get a scene in which he realizes, right, there is nothing here for me. Tomorrow will be a brand new day. You're going to take me out for a walk, have a nice walk, a nice drink, and then when your back is turned, when you aren't looking, I'll stop waggling my tail and I'll do it properly this time. And Jack, this is horrifying Jack, because Jack, he knows where this character's coming from. He's been there. You can see it in John Barrowman's face. Like, you can see that Jack, like, not only does he understand, but he's been there, where he's tried to take his own life because the world around him is just something he's not familiar with, and he's had that life. He had built up his own family, but that was taken away from him, and has put him in this really dark state that he feels like death is the only option. But Jack is an immortal. He can't die. He might have tried to, he might have even attempted to, but he can't. He physically can't die. But this character, he can die. And so he asks Jack to help him, to assist him. And Jack does. He begs for him to find another way, to find meaning in life again, start a new family, have new friends. You know, it's not all over. And this character's like, no, I've had that. I just want to be gone with my family. And he's like, there's no heaven, there's no hell. You won't be reunited. It's just darkness. And it's here where he basically reveals to him that he is an immortal. Although I don't think he quite understood him. The way the scene plays out, it's like it's more of like a metaphoric kind of thing. And so that storyline basically ends with probably one of the most saddest scenes, as Jack and this guy are basically in the car as the fumes are building up, slowly but comfortably. I wouldn't say comfortably, but seemingly painlessly takes this guy's life, and Jack kind of like holds his hand while he goes out of consciousness and collapses. And like, that is just powerful scene, because we've connected with this character, and Jack can really relate to him, especially at this moment. Like, and he knows that like life could be bearable, that he could, if you stopped him, he would find new life, he would find a way. But this guy at this moment really doesn't want to, and so assists him in his suicide. And then that's the end of the story on that plot point, and that is a very hard-hitting drama. So let's go on to Gwen. She befriends the young girl of the crew. I believe they say she's 18, and first of all we get a scene in which she goes down to the shop, and she's just absolutely memorized by the fact that there's all this stuff in the shop, and everything seems to be so expensive now, because back in her day, £10 is the annual wage of like a month, I think she said it was. So now you've got £10 to spend like food for a week. It's just like everything's a bit more expensive now. And so basically it's her in the chocolate factory, as she's just seen all these things and she's just constantly picking up. She discovers what a DVD is, and she is memorized, so she basically buys some DVDs and plans on watching them. Her and the other girl, for the first half, are in the same, like, they're all like in the same like little, like a small like hotel for people who don't have anywhere to go. I can't remember what is it. I don't know what the word is. Just a flat or something. And here she befriends these two girls here, and they seem to be like chavvy. They talk chavvy. They drink when they're too young. Like they say like, "All right, Mash," that kind of stuff. And usually you would get like this like culture clash there's awkwardness before getting into the moments where they interconnect. But this story, what it does cleverly is make them connect straight away, and we get some really powerful scenes. There's a great moment in which she's talking about her family and how just like these two girls, like she was basically fostered. This is like a place for people not who have nowhere to go, and she can't tell them like what really happened. So she just says it's like her family, they're gone now, they're dead, but they didn't leave me anything. So I'm in this situation, and these girls, they see her sadness, and so they make her drink with them and have a cheerful moment, and they start laughing, and this girl starts singing, and we as an audience really relate to her. And the man from the party crew, he comes in and is like, what the hell are you doing? We are supposed to be blended in and you're making a scene of yourself. It's here then that she calls up Gwen because she's upset, and Gwen has to basically sort them out by doing absolutely nothing. I would like to add, like, she just says, it's like, are you going to be okay now? And the guy is like, yes, she's my responsibility, I will look after her, I will make sure she won't make a scene again. And she starts screaming at the guy. She's like, I hate this place, I miss my family, I miss my friends, I miss my dog, I don't have anything left. And so she starts breaking down, and she feels really uncomfortable here. So Gwen actually takes her back to her apartment, her home. We get a really funny scene, maybe a bit too wah 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 kind of scene, in which Reese, who hasn't appeared, I would like to add, for a long time in series 1 at this point, like he's been gone for a few episodes, and he walks around the house like naked, not realizing that Gwen has invited this girl over, and Gwen has to then come up with this story that she is related, she's a distant relation to her, and she had nowhere else to go, so she contacted Gwen, and Gwen thought that she'd stay here for a bit of time, and we see the connection between Gwen and this character. Gwen takes her out with Reese to go partying and stuff, only for this girl to basically be taken by this boy, not like taken as in like she's kidnapped, but just for a snog. And later on, Gwen finds her and pushes the boy off, and we get the talk, because cultural differences have changed, and Gwen basically has to tell this girl about how life is different. It's like how now in these days people don't really believe in sex before marriage, marriage before sex. Sorry, that's yeah, and that as long as it's two consenting adults and as long as it's safe, then people don't care. But you know, you got to be careful, because some boys might not give the girl the choice, and they have a little bit of a talk and about love and sex, and how in these days sex doesn't have to be about love. It could just be having about a good time in the right mood with the right person. And we also get the sort of references to Gwen's and Owen's affair as the awkward conversation. It's like Reese is the best person you've had sex with, but Gwen kind of goes quiet about it, basically implying that Owen is better at Reese at and that then puts them in an awkward situation. A scene later on, then they go back after having like a girly day out, and she actually gets a job, but it's in London, and Gwen doesn't feel comfortable about that. She feels like, right, you are out of time. There are so many cultural differences. Maybe stay in Cardiff for a bit longer, and we'll get you a job, maybe one in London as well. But let a few years so that you can get used to the place and the situation. And you can kind of feel like Gwen is sort of mothering her, and she doesn't want her to go because she feels this innocence about her, and she feels like people can easily take advantage of her. But the situation then heatens as Reese has a phone call from Gwen's mother, and Gwen's mother has never heard of this relative. And Reese kind of clicks, this is not to do with family, this is to do with her work. This is a complete stranger that you've just invited into our house. And Gwen is kind of like, yes, this is a work thing, but come on, she's 18, we need to look after her. But Reese is just like, it's not really about the fact that it's work, it's the fact that she easily lied to him. That it was so easy for her to say about this family and stuff and can't tell him about work. And so, I don't think he kind of pushes her out, but she does feel honestly really guilty, and so she is like, right, I'll go by tomorrow. You won't see me by tomorrow. You can kind of see like Reese's face is just kind of, he doesn't really like want to like kick her out, but he does feel really annoyed by the whole situation, and so he doesn't say anything. And there's a scene where Gwen and this girl are talking, and she's like, there's these two worlds, Torchwood and then the real world, and she is like, this is why I got to go, is because so you can live your normal life again. And so that storyline ends with her getting on the bus to Cardiff and Gwen waving her off, and you can kind of see that Gwen doesn't want her to go because she feels like it's her responsibility, that this is someone she's taken under her care, and she's kind of have to abruptly end it because, you know, she wants to go to London. She doesn't want to stay here, the big city, the big London. And so she's going to the big city, to a thing, and Gwen doesn't know what to do, like. And so that's how that plotline lands. This plotline is easily the funniest, but I think out of the three, it is the weakest. Because with the other two, I think there's so much emotional connection there. This one, not that there's no emotional connection, but it is the weakest out of the three. So let's talk about Owen's plotline, and with his character, who I actually do remember the name of, Diana. Diana was the pilot on the plane, and she is basically the rebel of the three people. She is someone who, if she was lived through the 50s into the 60s into the 70s, she would have fitted right in. Through Owen, she learns about all these planes, and we get to learn that like she is somebody who doesn't usually sit still. She doesn't have like any boyfriends. She loves to just explore. She loves to adventure. In that sense, she's kind of like the Doctor. Like, she doesn't like staying in one place. She just has to go because she's got this urge to travel, to feel. And now, because she can't fly, because, you know, her driving license is out of date, she is basically stuck here. And Owen is the one to look after her. But Owen is sort of a rebel as well. And they connect through that. And Owen basically explains to her about sperm donation and the sex revolutions of the 60s and 70s, and that you know, people just have sex now for fun as well as relationships, and so they quickly have sex, and that's one of the things people do criticize about the story. It's one of those clearly like adult scenes for the adult audience, and yes, you could have taken the sex scenes out of this story, and in terms of plot, it wouldn't make much of a difference. But I think the sex scenes here are sort of necessary because it shows that these characters, both of these characters, are somebody who would rather jump into situations, jump into someone's bed, and then, but not really care about the relationship too much. They are people who, you can't tame them in a sense, but slowly throughout the story they do kind of tame each other as Owen and Diana kind of start falling for each other. Owen actually does help her to try and go flying, there's a point where he plans on taking her out to an airplane, but all the planes are booked and she starts breaking down in tears. Owen does genuinely apologise. He's like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do this. Something we've never seen Owen really do is say sorry like this. Most of the time it's half-heartedly, or he puts the blame on someone else. But here we genuinely see him apologising, which is it's a lot more meaningful because we've never seen him do it before. So that's an interesting dynamic. And he buys her this lovely dress, and they go out on a rooftop and in a car park, and they start dancing to old-fashioned music as he's got this suit on, and they have champagne, and they go back to Owen's apartment and they start having sex again. And Owen basically breaks down and it's just like, I'm just terrified. I'm absolutely terrified because this plan was just, to be, this was just someone to get off steam, if you know what I mean. He only used her for sex at the start of this, which he kind of understood. But now something has changed in him. He's been a lot more kinder to her. He can't stop thinking about her. When she's gone, he thinks about her, the way her dress looks like, the way her thing, what she's thinking. And it's clear that he's fallen in love with her and he's scared of it, and she has to break down and be the one that goes, Owen, I love you too. But she knows that she is like a rebel. That's the thing with these characters. They can't be tamed, and here they are being tamed. And Owen is kind of scared, but he is getting into it. But Diana, it scares her, I think, even more without her saying it. And so the next morning, Owen reads a note as Diana's disappeared and runs off into the airport where she is trying to fly her old plane, and she plans to actually travel it back through the rift in a vain hope to get back to her own time, or just to go anywhere else. She loves to explore. She just wants to go there. And Owen is just like, you can't do this. We have no idea how the rift works. There's a very, very likely chance that you will die. A worst case scenario is that you trap yourself in a situation where you've got no food, no water, that kind of stuff. It's horrible. But she doesn't care. She can't be tamed. She needs to go and explore. There's gotta be a chance. She's got to at least try. And Owen breaks down. He holds the door. He's like, no, you're coming back with me. But she kind of calms him down and realizes it's like, right, if you do really care for me, you would let me be free like a butterfly, and you will suffer, but you will endure. That's the thing with love. It cages, cages its victims. I can't remember the exact quote. And the end of the plot line is that she goes onto a plane as Owen had the chance of love, but is emotionally distorted because of the fact that, she's gone. This would play a big part in Torchwood Series 1, following this, and in all the episodes after this. So this is basically a start of a storyline, of a story arc here, and that's the end of that story arc and that storyline. Before I actually end, I also just want to state, Murray Gold's music in this is absolutely gorgeous. If you go on the internet and just type in Torchwood Out of Time soundtrack, music from this, there's this love. I always think of it as Owen's love theme, but apparently when you're in the story, it plays throughout the adventures on each plot line. So even though in my head it is the Owen love theme, it actually really plays out through the entire episode, but for some reason I connected it with Owen's plotline more, and that music is just so gorgeous. Highly recommended. So there you go, that's Out of Time. It's clearly to see why this is one of the best episodes of Series 1. it is my favourite episode of Series 1 that we tackled with so far. It tackles its adult-orientated segments very well, especially how the three storylines end. Heartbroken, abandoning, and assistant suicide. And the story treats it with a maturity that only an adult-orientated show could do. This is something you couldn't do in the finer details. You could do it in a broad stroke in Doctor Who, but in terms of the finer details, this story really brings that out. And I think as well, the fact that none of those cheesy aspects that I disliked about the majority of Torchwood episodes so far make it into this story, allowing Alice Troughton to really show off her directing style. And some of her medium shots and long shots of the romantic pair with Owen and Diana, and some of the scenes in the bar with Jack and that guy, those scenes just look so good in this story that, like, Alice Troughton I thought was a very weak choice in Small Worlds, but she has more than made up for it in this story. And Catherine Tigana brings out a fantastic script. I think this was her first script in the series, and she does a fantastic job here, and is well deserving of being a recurring writer for the series. So there you go, that's Torchwood Out of Time. So join me next time. Whatever you do, don't turn your head, don't look away, and don't blink. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra.